Hello. Hold on. Hello. This is my second entry on my vlog. One of the first things I'm going to tell you about myself is I have a strange relationship to sleep and suffer from insomnia. So I just woke up after being asleep for a couple of hours, and now I'm up, and it's midnight, so it's not the morning as I hoped it would be, right? A nice healthy hour like 5 AM or 6 AM or 7 AM. It's bloody midnight, and I'm awake. I have an amazing relationship to dreams and sleep. Forgive my semi-nudity. Is that okay? Is that allowed? Yeah. That window which separates sleeping and waking. I'm kind of lucky because I haven't got a day job apart from the tofu round, which I only do twice a week. So usually I get to hang around for as long as I want in bed, which is amazing because I get to think. I do my best thinking in the mornings, and sometimes I just like to stay in bed. So rather than actually get up and prepare for the day, I've kind of got a chance before the detritus of the day starts to impact upon me, getting up, brushing my teeth, having a shower, having breakfast, all of that. I've got this window to think about the world, and as an artist, which is what I do for a living, I get the chance to kind of contemplate and think about stuff, and I get the chance to ponder upon my dreams. When I first approached a doctor, a family friend actually, a very good friend of my father's, who now unfortunately has passed away, the friend, not my father, he dismissed my coming to him and asking him about dreams, and he just said they're rubbish, they're absolute just noise of the day. As an artist and a human being, I don't believe that. My dreams are absolutely incredible. They're an incredibly rich resource, and being able to kind of sit around in bed and think about them, it sometimes is fascinating. They make me laugh, they make me think. I find dreams so powerful. There are always these narratives that the sleeping brain comes up with to amuse and delight, which are often filled with one's fears and one's hopes and one's unconscious and repressed desires. Now, if that sounds very Freudian, in a way it is. I think that Freud and Jung, despite... do you know who they are? Freud and Jung, they were the fathers of psychoanalysis. So around the turn of the 20th century, this kind of body of work was born, the psychoanalysis, where Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, who were friends, Carl Jung was a student of Freud, kind of effectively began to delve into the mind. Now, we don't know what goes on up here. Now we've got neuroscience, we're beginning to be able to see how the brain operates. We can kind of scan the brain, for example, and see what areas light up when we think about certain things or engaged in certain tasks. But we didn't have this technology 100 years ago. So our first way into the brain was through analysing people's thoughts. Now, it gets pretty trippy, this story, because before that, there was this thing called phrenology, which was nuts. It was crazy. People believed that by feeling the skull, you could make predictions about people's personality. It was absolute cobblers. It was rubbish. But people believe this. Some very intelligent and brilliant people from every field, scientists, artists, writers, thinkers, they all believed it. All swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. I guess that's the thing about science. The more we move forward into time, the more we discover that what we once thought was rubbish. Like we once thought the Earth was flat. We now know it's not. We're now when Galileo first kind of said, "Hi guys, the the sun and the moon don't revolve around the Earth. The Earth revolves around the sun." They did they burn him at the stake? They certainly. I think they definitely knocked him off, didn't they? Because the idea was heretic. People didn't believe it at all. So we tend to believe some weird stuff until science kind of proves that what we were thinking was a bit nonsense. So there was phrenology, and then before neuroscience, there was psychoanalysis with people like Freud and Jung, these pioneers. There were others, people like Lacan, but I'm really interested in Freud and Jung. That they kind of did some really deep work, which has laid the foundations for so much of thinking, because everything that we believe is kind of founded on what we used to think. So, for example, there's a brilliant filmmaker called Adam Curtis who makes amazing films, and he's got a film called The Power of Nightmares, which you can see free online. I wonder if I had my stuff together, I would probably try and work out how to put a link into like the bottom of this page or something down there. I'll work that out in the future maybe. So in The Power of Nightmares, Curtis talks about how advertising, in effect, was the brainchild of a nephew of Sigmund Freud. So, if you like, this kind of very essential tenet to foundation of capitalism, advertising, actually was born from the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. Now, Freud loved dreams. There is some substance, I do believe, to his work, but it's Jung. It's Jung that I want to talk about, because Carl Jung, I think, was an absolute genius. Many people dismiss his work now. They see it as outdated and archaic, in a similar way that they see Freud, a product of its time, like phrenology. But I don't. I think Carl Jung was an absolute genius. And he has so much still to teach us. His body of work, which is called kind of Jungian psychology. People who study Jung are called Jungians. I don't want to rant on and on. I want to try and keep these posts a little bit short, but what can I tell you about Jung? Jung invented a theory which he called the theory of the collective unconscious. He believed that the human personality is formed of constellations of characteristics that he called archetypes, that don't exist simply up here, in the mind or in the self. They exist somewhere else. And he called this something else, the collective unconscious. Imagine it like a pool from which we draw our stories and our dreams and our fairy tales. You lot know Star Wars, right? So George Lucas, who wrote Star Wars, based Star Wars upon the work of a guy called Joseph Campbell, who was considered the world's premier mythologist. He studied myths from around the world from different times. Now, Jung, Joseph Campbell, was a Jungian. he loved Carl Jung. He also believed in this idea of the collective unconscious that came out of Jung's imagination. Jung birthed this theory. Campbell suggested, he's got a great book, his kind of primer, if you want to get into him, is like The Hero with 1,000 Faces, in which Campbell, the Jungian, suggested that there is an archetypal story which involves the journey of the hero who must leave his familiar home, Luke Skywalker, leaving, was it Tatooine? The planet on which he was born, suffering a degree of tragedy which pushes him away from home, pass through the underworld, go through the journey when he must descend. Before he descends, he meets some kind of shaman type figure, Obi-Wan Kenobi, descends through the underworld or the underground. Think of Orpheus, the myth of Orpheus, you know that story? Orpheus and Eurydice, great cracking Greek story. Go to the underworld and have some kind of battle or test where he must come back with some kind of boon or gift. In Luke Skywalker's case, he had to kind of face his dark side, meet his dark father, Darth Vader, and came back, if you like, with the Force, which, you know, learned about becoming a Jedi, and then return from the underworld and come back to his home, his people, his family, that which he left behind, to share this boon with them. Campbell suggested that that is the archetypal journey. He called it the journey of the hero with 1,000 faces, and it's very much based on Jungian archetypes. Campbell and Jung suggested that our dreams, our stories, our fairy tales contain characters. The Wicked Witch, the Dark Father, like this, the Princess, the Wicked Stepmother. Funny how they're often kind of seen from a male protagonist point of view, isn't it? There's a brilliant English writer called Angela Carter. And she likes to kind of invert these stories and tell them from a woman's perspective, which is a very valuable pursuit, I think. So these characters, Jung and Campbell suggested, come from the collective unconscious, and they manifest in our stories, in our fairy tales, and in our dreams. And we find them throughout the ages, in all sorts of cultures, at all sorts of different times in human history. Because we're not just making them up. They exist in the collective unconscious and they come to visit us. Jung went so far as to suggest that the people that we meet in our everyday lives are unresolved parts of ourselves. Jung believed that our soul needs to be individuated. Our soul, our self, our human being contains many archetypes, bits of our personality. The stepmother, the wicked witch, the dark father, the hero, the villain, like this, that we don't know, and we must come to know them. And as we come to know them, we can become individuated. We can own these parts of us, and we become whole. Jung believed that we need to become whole. The self is made up of all these little bits, all these different characters, these archetypes, and we need to get to know them. And some of them are very difficult to know. For example, the shadow. The shadow is like the dark part of ourselves, the dark father, the Darth Vader, that we can't recognize in ourselves because it's really hard for us to come to terms with that part of us which is ugly and horrible and thinks horrible thoughts. I'm going to kill that guy, thoughts like that. So, because we can't see this character immediately inside of ourselves, we create him. We create him in our stories and in our dreams. And in our fairy tales, the Dark Father, Darth Vader. And moreover, we create him in human life. The people that you don't like, that bloke that you saw yesterday who you started shouting at, he's your shadow. He is the dark part of yourself that you can't recognize, that you have to create as a person you meet in your life, to learn about yourself. That's what Jung believed. That's kind of part of his theory of the collective unconscious. We meet the parts of ourselves that we need to come to terms with in our daily life, in our dreams, in our fairy tales, and in our stories. Now, of course, you might dismiss that as a load of twaddle and rubbish, and that is your prerogative. And believe, you're right. You can do that. Many people think that it's a lot of nonsense, a lot of hot air. But I really like it. I really like it as a map. If you kind of get into that, if you kind of follow Jung's thinking, then every religion on the planet, let's take the biggies: Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of others. They're all stories. They're all stories that, if you like, are maps of our consciousness or psyche. I'm going to wrap it up. I just looked at the time. It's like 16 minutes. I've been chatting rubbish. But the thing I'm going to leave you with is I'm going to post. I am actually going to find out how to put a web link in the bottom of the camera. I have no idea how to do that, but I'm going to do it now because I want to introduce you to one of my favourite thinkers on the planet. I talked about him earlier. He's a neuroscientist. Did I? His name is David Eagleman. This guy is a genius. He's amazing. He's a really, really, really smart guy. And in this talk, which I think you're going to love, he will tell you about something that he's invented called possibilianism, because he doesn't believe in God as monotheism or polytheism, different kind of forms of believing in theism or some kind of godhead, the many religious stories across the planet, the thousands and thousands of them. But he also doesn't describe himself as an atheist, because he sees atheism as too dogmatic a term, too reductive, too dismissive, and if you like a big finger, I don't like swearing, but a big finger to religion. Most of my atheists hate religion with a passion. Most of my friends, my atheist friends, hate religion with a passion because they see it as responsible for all the world's evil. But I don't see it like that. I don't think there is evil. But that's another story which we'll get into later. Check out David Eagleman and Possibilianism. I'm going to try and put the link below. Alright, lovers. See you later. I'm not going to go to sleep. I'm going to start writing about my dreams and reading a book, and I'll probably end up doing some work. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Speak to you soon. Bye.